Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Are you ready for Endgame? It's today, guys. Endgame is today, everybody. I'm
I
so
mean,
excited about what our teams are doing collectively. God, the Caps have been shot out of a cannon. Spirit about to play in the playoffs. Orioles may do nothing. Who knows? Juan Soto may come back here. I can dream a little bit. You never
sure,
know. Maybe
sure.
come back here. Draymond Green thinks the Wizards are awesome. Draymond Green said the Wizards are awesome. And of course, the Commanders are just killing it beyond expectations. But today's the Super Bowl, guys, and we all know it because life will change after today, one way or the other. So whoever side you're on, there's big wins and big losses in life. We live that in sports. Get ready for the biggest of them all.
I will not get too political. Per usual is what I like to say over the last 12 to 16 years. Vote in your local elections, people. That's how you actually change these things. So yes, please just go vote. It doesn't matter.
Keep
Just go
calm
vote.
and Kornacki on tonight, guys.
But by the way, I will say this too. I think this is the second time in a row. I think the first time or 4 years ago was COVID, so it didn't really count. There have been times where DC teams do play tonight, and I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
I think the Caps had a home game on election night 2016, and I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, we're the one city, guys. Like, can we put everyone off for the one night? And
That's
so
a Russian disinformation campaign.
What happened in 2016? I mean, I'm just saying there.
Man,
Anyways,
like everybody else after 2016, I was shook, just about how that happened. And this time around, I won't be because I can't believe we're in this position again, but we are. And the electorate will choose what it wants at this point, and I'm going to keep calm and Kornacki on about the whole thing. It's hard to, I think, explain to a younger generation how we're here, which I think is probably the biggest part of this that is difficult. Like when I talk about wanting to, because I genuinely like people and respect people and, believe in things like, don't judge them off of, characteristics that they can't control. If the leader of the free world for a second time is the complete opposite of that, it's hard to instill those types of lessons like they mean anything. So we'll see what happens tonight. And I'm going to assume that if it goes in that direction that we'll survive like we did the first time. And we'll still be here, I think. There might be some laws that might get enacted like they have over the last couple of years that some people, myself included, object to. But we'll see what happens. America sails on, guys. I am of the opinion that I'm trying to, maybe I'm just calming myself I'm not going to break out in hives like I did in 2016 when I worried, is this the end of us? Like,
right.
I don't know. Well, this was, I think we were all, what was Last of Us? We all went full Last of Us. Like the zombies came out. It was zombie apocalypse. And we're like, oh my God, we're living in true Last of Us. I don't think so this time. And I do hope either way that whatever happens, that all the divisiveness of this campaign, which was awful, ends. Like just get on to the business of moving forward, either side, please. Please, yep. For the love of God, can we stop being the personification of Twitter every day in real life? Can we just please move on? Because I got a football season to get to, guys, and it's a really, really, really good one. Don't mess up my flow. We're in a really, really, really good one this year.
I was going to say, don't mess up the Jaden Daniels sideline of the Wizards talk. That's all.
Come on. Jaden Daniels shows up, standing ovation, deserved. Draymond Green gives standing ovation to Keyshawn George and Bub Carrington. We're in a new world, guys. He described them as this is the hardest we've played in years. Which I thought was like the biggest backhanded slap compliment I've heard in a very long time. They're like, this team never plays hard, but that one actually did.
To me, all that did with what Draymond said was confirm what you and I always bitched about with Brad. It was, Brad, you can put up 40 points, but I know looking at this team, you instill nothing in them. And the fact that we are already here without him, it just reiterates it. Like, once again, we're not that much dumber than the people that actually run the show. And that's what Hard Knocks has taught me. And now stuff like this is teaching me. We're not that far off.
No, we're not. Yeah, you guys don't have the secrets. You really don't. Maybe Adam Peters does. He's sitting there going, really? Watch me. So
right. I'll give him that.
Or my favorite line was the Brad, we can't guard a parking meter. But I'm like, but you're on the team that can't guard a parking meter. Why can't you guard a parking meter?
Right. I'm the problem. It's me. That's what that one runs into.
Correct. All right. We are at deadline day here, guys, which for the first time in a very, very, very long time, boy, the NFL picked the wrong day to actually do that, albeit the trades will be over before the polls close. So we'll know everything, and it's all starting to kind of trickle down so far. One of the guys I kind of earmarked a couple weeks ago, I'm like, if Cleveland keeps losing, they're going to trade Zadarius Smith because he's a rental for somebody, and the Lions stepped to the head of the line and got a deal done today for him for what I anticipated. I think it's Zadarius Smith and a seventh for a fifth and a sixth or something like that. So it's very low level assets. Washington has 3 seventh round picks next year. The chances of 3 seventh round picks making a team are extraordinarily slim. So Peters and company are going to do something with at least 1 or 2 of those, whether it's right now or next year, where they just maneuver a couple to either move up to a 6th or a 5th or trade them out for ones later down the road. Like, you're not going to use all 3 of those picks. And we all know this. These are the type of assets you use in these situations. So that one's off the board. It's not to say that I think Washington was overly interested in him, but he's an example of the type of lower tier rentals that I think are potentially available today. And I'm assuming that Washington is looking very strongly into all of these kind of scenarios at the D-line position, at the wide receiver position, and most notably corner, where I actually don't think it's about a 6th or a 7th round pick. It's about something maybe higher than that. But those are the 3 spots, and we'll see if they actually do anything today.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that Zadarius Smith trade and thought, that's it? Like, I thought they could have probably maneuvered a 5th round pick out of somebody. And the fact is that everybody is kind of holding firm on these rentals. My hope is that they do something, but at the same time, if that's what Zadarius Smith is getting, I don't know what everyone else is asking for, or just guys that aren't going to be traded, period. I think that's where I'm actually landing here after this trade this morning is, there's actually not that much movement on both the buyers and the seller side, it seems like.
You know, I will be interested to see this too, because like Cleveland's now traded off a couple parts. Amari Cooper, prominent parts, like they traded now Zadarius Smith, but that's a traditional, like, our season's not going well, get them off the books. It's a rental for somebody else. Like that's a standard one. I will be very interested if after the trade deadline this time around, if some of the teams didn't move the guys that they want to move, actually release a few name players. Like I'm going to be very interested to see if that starts happening now, because, obviously like some seasons went the wrong way and it's time to kind of go in a different direction. The team that I'm watching pretty closely here also now is New Orleans, who just fired their coach. And they have very prominent contracts on their team. Clearly their season isn't going the right way. I think they just re-signed Kamara, so I don't assume that he's going anywhere. Nobody's going to take Carr now, even though it'd probably be the right thing to do, to like kind of either shelve him or move away from him and let the season play out with a younger quarterback, because it's done and over. And they're one of those that probably needs to look at who's the future quarterback for them. So losing makes sense, at this point. But on the defensive side of the ball, there are prominent names over there. Most notably for us that I would watch is Marshawn Lattimore. I've seen some reporting that people are calling about him, no kidding. And he also has been dealing with injuries this year, which is a little bit of a red flag to me, because if you're going to do this, you want a guy who can play. You're also bringing in a lot of money, which they can eat this year for sure. We still have a lot of cap room to do something like that. And we do need an upgrade at the position. I mean, it just goes without saying that needs to be done. I've known this for weeks. The reporting is out there that they are actively looking. So he's someone I think you squarely have to have a conversation about. And that's the one where I go, okay, the price for him might be a little higher than say like Zadarius Smith, because the market's a little bit different. Like there's probably a couple teams that wanted Zadarius Smith, and that's all that really was going to be given up. And if Washington was one of them, that's all they would have given up too, if anything like that. Someone like Lattimore might be a little bit different, and let's see how high a price would go for that. But he's someone I'm watching closely today. because clearly the Saints are going to be open-minded and sellers.
With Lattimore as well, I think he's got 2 years left on his deal after this season. They're non-guaranteed. That's somebody that if he fits in with you, you right away can all of a sudden sign. He's only 27, 28 years old.
You can restructure. If it's non-guaranteed, you can restructure as well.
Yep. Exactly. So that's what I'm getting at there. Like the Lattimore trade, I'm kind of with it. If they have to give up a little bit more than we think, but then all of a sudden they lock in a corner for 4 more years, golden. Like that to me is like the perfect mix. But you also heard Quinn say yesterday in his press conference where he basically just said, like, the attitude of this team is compete. They want guys that want to compete. I don't know Lattimore and his attitude or whatever, but they're going to try to make that fit not only on the field, but off the field too. So I think that's why if they stand pat today, I think you know why they're going to stand pat too.
I also just because I saw a few people write this because Chase Young is on a 1-year deal. The answer there is no. And the reason why is he has serious long-term health concerns that I know that New Orleans and he went about addressing by giving him the type of contract that they gave. And he did undergo a pretty serious neck surgery to hopefully fix that. And I'm wishing him the best for his career, but that's not an answer here. So just, I don't think most of you needed to hear that, but that's not happening. Like that's literally not happening. The other one, let me go back to Cleveland. Since they clearly are selling, they traded Amari Cooper, they traded Zadarius Smith. They have, unlike most teams, a glut of corners, actually. Denzel Ward is highly compensated. And if he was actually available, well, that's the one where I'm like, what's the price? Because he's actually a Pro Bowl caliber player. The others that they have, Greg Newsome, which comes to mind because they've paid Denzel Ward, because they've paid Myles Garrett, probably isn't going to be in line to get the type of deal that he probably is looking to get, post this season and beyond. He was one that I looked at in the summer and I went, is he available to help you upgrade now that Cleveland's season went completely sideways in sellers? He's another one. And that's a team I'm watching here too. Are one of those corners, probably not Ward, but if Ward or really either one of them, are they available? And if that's the case, that's an interesting spot that I'm watching today.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're the team that we also not only look at with their season over with, it's their salary cap too. Like all the experts have basically said they need to start shedding salary because all of their contracts, specifically the Deshaun one, is one of the worst ones in the league that basically they're not going to be able to afford some of these guys anyways. They have to start unloading. That was why they unloaded Cooper so fast, essentially, because they were like, we cannot afford to have all these guys on the cap heading into next year. So they have to move guys.
I have 2 ones that I don't think will happen, but they need to be pointed out. So when you go back to defensive line, we just played the Giants. They're fielding a ton of calls about Azeez Ojulari, who's like heated up here. Kayvon Thibodeau is going to come back from off of IR. He was on short-term IR, obviously missed the last Washington. Ojulari is a very, very good player. Reminds me a lot of Hassan Reddick, just very, very sneaky, fast, good edge rusher, makes a lot of havoc plays, turns drives upside down. He might be available. And if he is, especially now that their season has gone sideways, I don't know that they're going to trade with us in division. But I don't know, maybe hates what Shane did so much by giving Saquon to the Eagles or letting him go to the Eagles that he now wants us to beat Philadelphia. Who knows? Like some kind of weird scenario that's going on there. So I'd be open to him. That guy's a highly competitive, game-wrecking type of pass rusher. And so I'd be open to him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to him. I doubt they're going to want to move him here. I mean, they would have to do the old, like, you're getting taxed an extra pick or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, picks are picks. I mean, and at this point too, with how, the market is, I guess maybe they would take it if they stepped up. I don't see that happening. I don't see it. I
don't either. And here's the other one I don't see happening, and probably is something that will be revisited in the offseason, because I just don't think the Cowboys would trade with us, especially considering we haven't played them yet. But how many of those defensive players would love to come over here and play with this group, knowing the success that they had there and seeing where their season is going? And clearly the vibes are so off. So Deron Bland, who's missed a ton of the year with injuries, but is scheduled to come back and broke a pick-6 record a year ago. And this one won't happen because Jerry would never trade us a star. Trayvon Diggs, like, look what's going on with him right now with the media there and the things that are being said. You don't think for a second if he was given the opportunity to get out and go back to the staff that he worked with, he wouldn't at least consider something like that? So that one is pie in the sky, and I don't think Jerry would do it, but like Deron Bland, who excelled in that specific defense, this is like crazy talk because I really don't think Dallas would trade any prominent player to us whatsoever. But you don't think for a second that the way their season is going, that some of those, especially defensive players, are looking at what's happening here going, how do I get over there? I do. I believe it.
No, 100%. I don't think it'll happen mid-season. What I will say, though, is this, though. Like, we've seen more and more on draft day, this division doesn't mind trading with each other. Like, this team made a trade with the Eagles.
Two of them,
right? The Cowboys and Eagles constantly trade now, at the top of the draft. Not just small draft picks, but at the top of the draft, they trade with each other now. I don't know. Maybe we need one person to open that door, and all of a sudden it'll happen a little bit. But it's a pipe dream. I'll give you that, though. I bet you there are people, some of their players barking that they want to come over here. So yeah,
I'm sure. So we'll see. I mean, that's all the pipe dream stuff. And then there's we don't know who's being really quiet about what's out there and where people are going. We'll have to just see. But at this point, it's hard for me to picture a big deal unless it's like Lattimore, like who's like an obvious. The Saints have to be sellers. Are they willing to move on from him? I don't know. Do they want to shed one of the bigger salaries? I don't know. He has been injured this year. So are they feeling like he's not someone that we expect to be able to play a ton over the next few seasons, and therefore we're going to make a deal? So we'll have to just kind of watch and see what happens throughout the course of the day for them. One other one I just want to bring up, because multiple people are, reporting about it, which is Emmanuel Forbes and his future. He didn't play over the weekend. He's been, limited snaps over the last month or so. Obviously, he had the thumb surgery, so that kept him out for a few weeks, but he's healthy now. He's been back, and he's fallen out of the rotation, for any variety of reasons. But, I buy this staff that, again, they don't ever want to say it because they're very positive about everybody. But when you are weak at a position group and you have a first round pick who's not playing, it tells you everything you need to know, which is they just don't think he's good enough right now to get a lot of snaps. And if the reporting is true, and I don't deny it, but like Ben Standig was talking about it, Josina Anderson was talking about it, because I don't picture Washington at 7-2 being sellers. However, if there is an asset to come back for him at this point, it sounds like they are open to it. And, I think it's worthwhile to survey the marketplace. I wouldn't just drop him, because he is under contract for a couple more years. But if there is something to get back, because there's a team that thinks they could use him for a stretch run, I understand why they're open to it. He's just not playing right now. That's a coach's decision. It's not injury. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this one's just value. Like, if someone actually wants him, you take what you can for him. The other thing would be, does somebody have, one of those pieces that you want to? Like, does somebody have an edge rusher that's not in their rotation that you'd be willing to kind of take a shot on, where you try to do the old change of scenery thing for both players to see if that'll work out too? Yeah, you definitely want to survey that market.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get they seem to be clearly working great with veterans. You could flip him for a veteran defensive player, whether it's a corner, an edge rusher, defensive tackle for that matter, because of injuries there, because they've fallen out of favor and your team's not going well, and they want to develop Forbes because they like him, and we'll take this veteran off your books. That's going to help us for the easy run. I think that's a win-win for everybody there. So we'll just have to see. All right. When we return, you'll hear my discussion with London Fletcher from the Booth Review off of the win over the Giants. And Mark Krikorian, the GM and president of soccer operations of the Washington Spirit, will join me later as well as we get set for the Spirit facing Bay FC in the playoffs this weekend. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.